Mansted suffered a gunshot wound to the face in France. He was discharged from an English hospital and ordered back to the front. After a couple of weeks in custody and of the strong belief he had done his bit for the war effort, he resisted his escort and went AWOL again until August 1917, when arrested at Covent Garden, London. His court-martial was held at Perham Downs on September 14, 1917, where he was sentenced to 15 months. He escaped again, this time at 2 p.m. on April 23, 1918. He was arrested 10 days later. But on April 23 he was off again, only to be apprehended on June 15, 1918. Another 6 months was added to his sentence. Loading Mansted kept escaping. He was missing between January 10 and 25, 1919. And then, at 7:45 p.m. on February 10, 1919, Mansted escaped from the guardroom at Longbridge, Deverell. 2 days later a policeman arrested him at Bedford Bury. Before writing on the arrest sheet, "I asked prisoner for his pass. He failed to produce one and failed to produce his paybook. He said, 'I have been robbed and they have taken my paybook.'" He subsequently pleaded guilty to charges of escaping lawful custody and defacing a paybook. The British treated him more leniently than their own who were executed for desertion, the last one being on November 7, 1918, only 4 days before the end of the war. Early in 1919, Mansted was returned to Australia in custody on the HMAT Durham. He was discharged from the army on September 13, 1919. Back in Australia, Joe settled down, married and had a son, Neville. He joined Newtown Rugby League Club and used his evasive skills to play on the wing. Mansted played 36 first-grade games for Newtown, scoring 10 tries between 1920 and 1923. At the age of 34, he represented Australasia and Metropolis the following year. In season 1924 and again in 1926 he played for Wests, notching up 9 top-grade games. Bluey Dragons legend George Carstairs in 1921 ahead of the Australian team's tour of England. Maybe it was his player-coach Roland Young, or the need to nurture the football career of Neville, but he finally found the discipline that eluded him in wartime and became a coach with the Dragons. St George's 1938 reserve grade team won the club's first premiership with Joe as coach and Neville in the team. One Dragon and Australian player, not afraid to return to battle, was George "Bluey" Carstairs, who fought in both World Wars. At age 16 in France and aged 40 in the Middle East, Bluey scored St George's first ever try and was the club's inaugural Kangaroo in 1921. He eclipsed Mansted as the Dragons' #1 escape artist when, during World War II, newspapers reported him dead. However, he had been wounded and was subsequently discharged in 1943. Bluey was central to the Borough Park riot in 1928 when he brawled with a Balmain opponent, Tony "Boxer" Russell, who is said to have kicked him in the head. Fans invaded the ground. One man was handcuffed to the goalpost and the cops forget he was there until much later in the night. The ambulance men foolishly put Carstairs and Russell in the same ambulance on the way to the hospital. They resumed their fight in the back of the ambulance, which had to stop on the side of the road until police came to break up the brawling. Carstairs and Russell were both treated at hospital. George eclipsed Mansted as the Dragons' #1 escape artist when, during World War II, newspapers reported him dead. Later, at the judiciary, Russell denied kicking George, stating that, "I wouldn't waste my boot leather on that bastard." And George denied elbowing the kicker. George had appeared in another jurisdiction, Goulburn Court, earlier that year. Following an exhibition game the Dragons played against the local team. The whole squad, including officials, were all arrested in the local hotel for drinking past 6 p.m. closing. They were all convicted. Carstairs hilariously claimed when testifying that he was a teetotaler, but the police gave evidence of seeing him with schooners at his lips. George lost his appeal. "It's been a long time since the Dragons have got out of jail to win a big game, but if they need an escape artist today, they could channel the elusive Mansted, or the spirited Carstairs."